Welcome to Sharing Documents Productively. My name is Linda Garrett-Johnson, and I'm the owner and principal consultant for the Word Applied Incorporated. Have you ever been on a team where you needed to share some documents with others? This short video will help you to understand how to put some protocols in place so that you can do that in a productive fashion. I am a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, process improvement, and organizational development consultant with 25 years of experience. I'm a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, a fur mommy to Foxy, and a fun fact about me is I am the owner of Gima Gear, a clothing line for women who are definitely not grandma as usual. So there are four main areas that you want to think about when you're sharing documents with others on your team. The first is naming conventions, how you name files and folders. The second is organization, how are the folders and files organized? The third is location, where will the folders and files be located? And then the fourth is timely backup of files and folders. And I'll go into detail about each of the four items on the next few slides. So when it comes to naming conventions, think about this in advance and articulate those naming conventions for your file folders and make sure that everyone on your team understands what the naming conventions are, because what you don't want to have happen is people are starting to name folders and then they name the documents within the folders, and it's sort of a free-for-all and everything is all over the place and people name them. I've seen people name files and folders because they have meaning to them, but they don't necessarily have meaning to the general team. And so when people are looking for a particular file within a folder, or even looking for a folder on a shared drive or a network drive, they can't find it. And you don't want to have that happen when you're sharing folders and when you're sharing documents. So again, create naming conventions and make sure that you share that with your staff in advance. And if you've already started a situation where you've been sharing documents and you kind of realize that the naming convention for the folders and the files are just all over the place, you can maybe have someone take a look at that and go folder by folder, document by document, and then try to rename things. But that's sort of a little mini project that you could give to someone. But one way that you could name your folders is, I suggest they be short and meaningful. And one way you can do it is have the month and the year. So in my example, I have April 2020, SharePoint how-tos. That's the name of the folder. And then contained within that are meaningful names of documents like April 28th, 2020, how to update SharePoint. And that would be a folder, a document name rather, that's contained within the SharePoint how-to folder. So when someone is looking for a document on SharePoint how-tos, they would say, oh, in April of 2020, someone put a folder out there on SharePoint how-tos. And then when they look through that, they can see, oh, on April 28th, 2020, somebody created a document on how to update SharePoint. So that's one way to think about a naming convention, but make it meaningful to you and your team. The other thing is organization. How do you want to organize the folders and documents within them? Again, you want to think about what's meaningful to your team. One way that you can do it, again, is by organizing the folders by month and year. And that allows you to find the folders easily, and it also lets you know the age of the documents contained within those folders. The other way that you can organize your documents is by month, day, and year. And again, that allows you to easily find documents by specific month, day, and year. Now that works in several situations, but again, you want to think about the organization of your folders and the documents within them in the way that makes sense for you and your team. So when you're sharing documents, you want to decide on the option that works best for your team. And by option, I mean what type of a shared location do you want to have? Do you want it to be a shared drive? Do you want it to be a network drive? Is it going to be a Google Doc? Is it going to be a SharePoint site? There's so many others. And this document is not going to explain the differences between all of those options, but it is just to say to you, think about the option that works best for you. When you're thinking about the option, think about the amount of space that you're going to need. Think about the ease of use and the ease of access to it. The other thing is, if you do have an IT team or a technology team that you can work with them, and they can help you decide the best option for you and your team. Because sometimes if you're using a SharePoint site, you may have a finite amount of data that you're able to use for the SharePoint site. But if you're using a network drive, you may have more data that you're able to access to, or the folder files and location can be a little bit larger. So again, if you do have an IT team that you can work with, you can think about that. The other thing is, make sure that the location is secure and that only those who need access to it have access to that location and its content. So again, make sure that wherever you're locating the documents, especially if you need to make sure that it's secure and you don't want anyone else outside of your team or even outside of your company to access those documents, make sure that that location is secure. And then finally, timely backups. Think about timely backups. My suggestion, again, if you're working with an IT team, they may have a schedule when they update your documents, when they do a backup of your documents and your file folders. So they're going to have that on a schedule. But I would suggest that you back up often, several times a day. And you also want to make sure that you're keeping copies of folders and documents in a separate place, in a separate external location, so that you don't want to be backing up your files and your folders in the same location as the original documents. And the reason for that is because if you have a problem with the location of the original documents and you need to then go back to a backup version of the folders or the documents, you don't want to be trying to find them in the same location because that location may be corrupt. And then also, do not, and I repeat, do not, if you're sharing documents and you know that these are shared documents that different people need to access for whatever the reason, don't keep those shared documents on your own personal drives, especially if you are not backing your personal drive up. Now, it's another suggestion that for your personal drive, I'll say that you do want to, if you're working as an individual and you have the capability, some companies do not allow you to do this. They won't allow you to put a thumb drive in your computer and back up your documents. That's not allowed for some companies. But if you're able to do this, and even if you're thinking about your own personal computer, I back up my personal computer. I back up any document that I work on as soon as I'm done with that document. As soon as I create the document or I update the document, I back that document up. I have an external hard drive and I back my documents up as soon as I'm done creating them or as soon as I'm done updating the document, and that's just me. But when you're working for a large company or a large corporation or a medium-sized company, there may be some IT rules or some technology rules where you are not able to back up your documents. And that is why it is important then, if that is the case, you are not working, if you have a document that your team needs to access and you are making changes to that document, you don't want to pull down a copy to your own drive and leave it there. You want to make sure that you're putting that document back in the shared location. So I hope that you have found this short video helpful to you. Again, these are some tips and tools that I have found over the course of my 25 years working in a variety of different settings to be helpful. If you'd like to know more about me, you can look at my website at www.applytheword.com, and you can also send me an email at connect@applytheword.com. And don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please, if you find this to be useful, share this document or share the channel with other people. And thank you.